All right, so I'm here with Dr. Jeff Senechel from Diverse Health Services in Novi. That's Novi, right?
Yes, correct.
Right. And he's got some perspectives he's going to share specifically about supplementation and a couple other things to do with your immune system while you're at home and things you can do to really help keep your health in full swing. So, Doc, I'm just going to ask you a quick question, give you the floor. We can go back and forth and go from there.
Sounds good, man.
So, in your opinion, what are the three best things that people can do to help their immune system stay strong during this whole thing?
The bang for the whole thing as far as corona or just the immune system in general, or both?
Do a little bit of both.
Do both, okay. The bang for the buck three for most people: zinc, vitamin D, and vitamin C. Especially in the northern states, no one's getting the vitamin D. Vitamin D is the #1 precursor for your immune system as far as flu prevention goes, pneumonia, upper respiratory infections, colds, those types of things. Adults could get about 5,000 to 6,000 IUs a day and do that daily and have optimal levels, which I like to look at in lab work. The functional medicine component about 80 on the blood work. Children can cut the dose down in half. As a fat soluble vitamin will build up in your system, so you can overdo it with the D, whereas vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin, and what you don't use, you'll excrete out. A lot of people tend to be deficient on zinc. Copper and zinc have inverse relationships. If you have too much copper in your system, zinc gets pushed out. I see a lot of people through some of my testing that the zinc and the C tend to be down quite a bit. Zinc and C in general have been, the main vitamin and mineral that have stood the test of time for people's immune systems. A lot of people get kind of tanked with stress, and stress will deplete a lot of minerals and vitamins out of people. And the little bit of vitamin C that you store in your body is in your adrenal glands, and during stress, your adrenal and your cortisol get ramped up and you'll cook through the vitamin C. So stress depletes a lot of vitamin C and crashes people's immune system quite a bit.
So you're saying that even like if people, so like let's say that someone already takes vitamin C and zinc and all that other stuff, are you suggesting that especially like during now with people having more stress, they should consider taking a little bit more?
Absolutely, a little bit more is not going to hurt at all. And with our current corona recommendations with patients, tell them to remember the ACDC: vitamin A, vitamin C, D, and more C. Will do the vast majority of people just fine. And the vitamin A aspect helps build the epithelial lining of your intestinal lining as well as your inside of your lungs. So that's where the vitamin A component comes from. And in the literature, the vitamin A, vitamin D, and C have strong antiviral aspects as well.
Okay. There were some things that we were talking about just before we got on this too. We were talking a little bit more about the supplements and all that other stuff, but you also mentioned something about gut health or can you explore that a little bit? What can people do to help their gut health, or why does it help your immune system? Why is it a good thing to focus on right now?
A lot of people have dead stomachs. I see a lot of patients in the office. They are just not digesting foods whatsoever, and this may be symptoms as far as gas, bloating, indigestion, constipation issues. It could be bad breath issues. It could be acid reflux. Some people that had the acid reflux, they're put on acid blocking medications. So then from there, it shuts off your stomach cells, and now you're not absorbing your minerals, you're not absorbing B12, you're not breaking down your proteins, and then you turn off your immune system, your gut. 80% of your immunity is through your gut. You kill off opportunistic infections like candida, parasites, fungus, yeast, mold, H. pylori, and things at your stomach level before they go south and create problems down below. So a lot of gut and stomach issues that I see on a regular basis in the office.
So, I mean, arguably, if you're talking about 80% of, you said 80% of your immunity?
Your immunity.
So your gut is arguably the most important line of defense, even
absolutely,
even for absorbing some of the stuff that you just talked about.
Yeah, without a question of doubt. And people that have lack of good stomach acid tend to have higher amount of food allergens, because by definition of a food allergen is an undigested protein. You need acid to digest those proteins. So these patients that have higher amount of food sensitivities have higher amount of gut inflammation, And that gut inflammation increases cortisol, increases glucose and insulin problems, and it could be weight gain issues, or it could be compromised immune systems from there.
What's I mean, just getting right down to the nitty gritty of it. So if 80% of your immunity comes to your gut, you need it to digest, absorb, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Are there I mean, obviously there's going to be supplements that you can use to be able to help it, which I'd like to hear from you. But the other part too are there things that people can do outside of supplementation even to help with that gut health, and what are they?
So there's a few things why people may have a dead stomach. Some people are put on medicines, antacids for acid reflux, and it neutralizes all acids in their stomach. That's a reason they may have a dead stomach. They may have a nutritional deficiency. You need zinc, you need thiamine, you need chlorine to help produce stomach acid. That's a second reason people may have a dead stomach. The third reason may be a sympathetic dominant imbalance, a nervous system imbalance in their body. Some people are more sympathetic dominant in nature, meaning if someone points a gun at you, adrenaline gets kicking up, your cortisol goes up. If your sympathetic nervous system's in full drive, the nerves that go to your stomach shut off your stomach of producing acid and enzymes. Unfortunately, the stressful life that we live in today, a lot of people are under this stress all day long, and this sympathetic drive is going, and they have dead stomachs because of that. And a lot of times I see patients who go more in a vegan, vegetarian-based directions because they have a dead stomach, and eating proteins don't seem to digest well with them, and they pursue more of a vegan, vegetarian diet because it feels better on their system. And as we age, it's a declining process of producing stomach acid. So as we age, we lack the stomach acid to help us digest, and we need more acid support. And it's a lot of too why people tend to be a little bit more deficient in that senior age, because the lack of the stomach acid help them absorb that B12 factor.
So you're actually saying that's super interesting. I've never heard about that before with the vegan side. So a lot of the reason why some of these people feel good when they start reducing protein, and obviously I'm thinking about all the documentaries that are out right now about going vegan. A lot of that, interestingly, is because people are under such high stress that they can't actually absorb the protein.
Yes,
that's what you're
absolutely. Kills the stomach. Stress kills the stomach. Just like in a guy's world, if someone's under stress all day long, they produce more cortisol and testosterone tanks. And it's a big issue of some of the guys I see in the office that have completely bottomed out testosterone.
That's super interesting. So I mean, we didn't even plan on going this deep into gut health initially, but this is some of this information that you're telling me is new to me. So we're going to stay here for a second. So the nervous system imbalance part of this. So, you're talking about how lack of being able to digest can affect your immune system. It can make people feel better on vegan diets. In my world, it would also mean that people probably can't digest protein as well, which means for their fitness, that they're not going to get as many gains out of their fitness because they may be protein deficient, right?
Yes, absolutely. You'll see chronic constipation issues with patients if they're not digesting things properly. Even if they pursue going dairy-free, gluten-free, and they're still dealing with chronic constipation, it's a good sign that they'd be better more towards a plant-based diet. Because as much as I like a higher protein-based diet personally for myself, well-balanced, paleo, keto, whatever, something like that would be too much of a stressor for someone who's got a dead stomach, and too much of a high protein-based diet. It's just more stress, where plant-based diet's easier for them to digest if they're prone to having a bit of that dead stomach. Okay. And there's testing that, simple tests. Some blood work factors may pop up. Albumin and protein levels may be high in blood work if you have an issue with not breaking down your proteins. But the simplest things I do in office is a hair analysis test. And a hair analysis test, if someone's minerals are all going to one side, it's a good indication that they got a bit of a dead stomach. And then kind of from there, we'll run some food sensitivities and see what needs to be cut out, what doesn't need to be cut out. But unfortunately, a lot of things in our food are creating a lot of gut problems as well. A lot of these genetically modified foods are creating a lot of chronic gut inflammation, and you're seeing a ton of issues of IBS, Crohn's, irritable bowel disease type problems with patients today like we've never seen before as well.
Wow. So hopping back again towards the one of the other things you said. So we talked a little bit about just overall gut health, but you talked about nutritional deficiency in maybe even what you eat. So there's the one side of when you eat food, you need to chew it up and you swallow it and it goes in your stomach acid digests it, and then you absorb it. So there's the one side. Are there, this might be a tricky one, but with nutrition, are there general foods that people should tend to eat more of to help with some of the even vitamin D, C, and zinc that you were talking about? There's my kids screaming in the background.
And I get asked that a lot. A lot of people think they could get all their vitamins and minerals just through diet and just a good balanced diet. Unfortunately, the vast majority of our soils depleted of the minerals. If the minerals aren't in the soil, it's not in the food, it's not in us. So no matter how good you think you could eat, you're just not going to get sufficient amount of everything that you need to where everyone should at least be doing a good quality multivitamin, a good quality fish oil, good quality vitamin D, just as a baseline thing for most people.
So you're saying that while there's room for people to definitely shift their diet around, there's only so far that you can go. And you feel like from what you see with people's blood work and all that other stuff, that they need a little extra bump. Okay. For the nervous system imbalance part that you talked about, because I'm huge on the idea of rest and recovery. I think that if people are going to work out really hard, they have to be able to recover as hard as they're working out to maintain good balance.
I agree.
So if you're going to have this nervous system imbalance, are there things that you've seen patients do physically or just anything you've seen them do that have helped their nervous system kind of reset itself? And are there things that people who are watching this call can start implementing right away at home?
Yeah, so a lot of patients who are just at sympathetic dominant, type A personality, go, have a hard time slowing their systems down and recovering. They will burn through alkalizing minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium. That's probably the top 3 deficiencies that you'll see with those patients. They just have a tendency to kind of cook them up a bit quicker. Most patients in general, probably the number one deficiency I see on a regular basis with individuals in the office is B complex deficiency. Pop, tea, coffee, alcohol, diuretics will deplete people's B vitamins like crazy. And this is why I see a lot of people just in their mid-20s, they're just tanked with energy. They got their B's, no B vitamins, their adrenals are depleted. Some of that stuff will lead to thyroid issues. And a lot of traditional doctors don't know how to treat and find just basic B vitamin deficiencies, that is to the point that they'll give lower doses or just doses of Adderall to treat people for energy issues today. Wow. Adderall today is what speed was back in the 70s.
Interesting. So you're opening up a whole box here. What you just talked about with B vitamin deficiencies. So the things that you just listed off, I realized were all things that had caffeine in them. And so, for people who don't know, the portion of caffeine, the reason why caffeine dehydrates you is it's a diuretic. So it binds to specifically sodium, to my understanding. You're the expert here. Binds specifically to sodium and forces you to excrete water. When you excrete more water, water-soluble vitamins tend to go out with it. I don't know if I have that right. You can correct me anywhere that I might be wrong. But so are you saying that my daughter's going crazy. So are you saying that, is it caffeine or specifically diuretics that secrete that?
It's one diuretic. I would say the main problem in the United States is the traditional standard American diet. Too many carbohydrates and too many sugars will deplete a lot of the B vitamins. If you're not getting enough Bs and you're depleting them through the diet, you'll burn through them pretty quickly.
Interesting. And again, you feel like you can do a lot with nutrition, but in that you really should consider supplements and B vitamins.
Without a question of doubt, yes. At minimal sum with that for sure.
Okay. Are there any, so we talked a little bit about things that you could do from home. So if I hear you right, then you're basically talking about reduce the amount of sugars that you have. And when we're talking about sugar, I mean, you and I have a slightly different opinion on carbohydrates as a whole, but we can agree that eating just straight up sugar like candy is
Yes.
it's bad for you.
Yes.
Reducing sugar, reducing caffeine containing beverages. Are there actual practices, like, talk to me about like either like meditation, or I saw some stuff about like
Yeah.
EMF waves and stuff that you were doing. Can you bounce into maybe some real simple things people can do from home since they're stuck in their house to help?
As far as the sympathetic dominant and kind of slowing the system down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, prayer, meditation, yoga, exercise, anything, exercise in general. Exercise is done better than any antidepressant and any anti-anxiety medication on the market. Just doing some type of movement and stuff. It's amazing how underutilized just simple exercise is with patients and taking the stress off the brain with a lot of people. Then, if there's something that's more personal, as far as PTSD, some post-trauma type of stuff. EMDR treatment works great. There's counseling. I try to work from more of a conservative standpoint versus peddling someone towards, you need to be on some antipsychotic medication and all that, because unfortunately today it's come down to it's a chemical cocktail for patients, and they just play around with different medications to see what your chemical cocktails best suited. And I treat. Hang up on that.
Hopefully they don't see the
video. Their office worker anyways, so she'll understand. But I see vitamin D deficiencies, vitamin B deficiencies, complex B12, iodine, thyroid problems that all contribute to depression and mood issues. There's no such thing as a Zoloft, a Prozac, or a Wellbutrin deficiency. With functional medicine, we want to get to the cause of the problem. You don't want to just throw drugs and medications at people and say, here you go, have a nice day. And unfortunately, this is the route that it's gone. This is why even so many younger people today are on medications very early.
Is there if talking specifically about the younger people, are there any habits that you see? Maybe sleep would be the one, because I know you're working a lot with sleep tracking and all that other stuff. But are there any habits you think people can put in place on a regular basis? You talk about exercise, sleep. Are there things that people can do with their sleep to help this process?
Yeah.
Anything like that you want to comment on?
Very, very simple stuff. My gosh, the younger generation behind us and the amount of screen time they're doing today, you could just cut out 1 hour of screen time and substitute it for exercise, reading, something else other than the screen time. The screen time stuff disrupts your brain and the pineal gland from secrete melatonin. And as people get restless and whatnot in bed, and they hop on their phone, and the phone and the EMF from all this disrupts the sleep cycle even more. It's the new animal of our eras. We're just surrounded by all this EMF stuff today, and unfortunately, this may have some detrimental effect in the future with EMF and these newer phones. Now the whole 5G stuff, and the amount of screen time that people are on some of these devices is just unbelievable. My younger brother, I'm 38. He's mid-20s, and he's telling me that he's on this thing like for 6 to 8 hours a day screen time. I'm like, oh yay.
And EMF, just to clarify for other people, we're talking about electromagnetic frequencies.
Correct. Yes.
And there's, I know that you've been using a monitor. I don't know what it's called, whatever, to actually test the frequencies.
Yes.
And you found that the EMF frequencies, what the volume of it or something coming out of your phone was really high, or
a lot of the EMFs come in more from the back of the phone than the front. And then where I was testing some of the older phones versus the newer updated, your newer iPhones 11s and whatnot, and just the amount of EMF that was coming off that was so much more compared to the older phones. But when they roll over to the 5G stuff, these companies are gonna, hey, you want to optimize 5G and you want a faster phone, you need to get a newer phone that's specific for the 5G, and I'm sure that's gonna throw off a lot more as well. And that has a whole different frequency of EMF that's going to be emitted from that. No one really knows what the health consequences of that could be.
So given that, we live in a technological age, so there's no way we're going to get away from phones. We're not going to get away from computers. Are there any practices with the phone that you think people can implement to help with their EMF exposure, or I don't know?
Keeping the phone away from you. If you're talking on the phone, trying to keep it away from you.
Like speaker kind of a thing?
There's grounding devices you could use. Even just being barefoot outside, barefoot in your basement, you're discharging electricity out of you. Some of the earthing devices, like a mat that plugs into the grounding unit, sleep on that, you're discharging electricity out of you as well.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of cool things, and even from your aspect of fitness and health and whatnot, a lot of athletes for recovery are very well into the earthing and grounding type stuff just for recovery by itself.
Hmm. I feel like when we talk about phones, we got to talk about time in bed. And you just mentioned the idea of them disrupting sleep cycles, messing with your sleep. I mean, I did this big study about growth hormone and trying to figure out how to help people develop their muscles better, and found out that a huge amount of growth hormone is produced during deep sleep.
Yes.
So in my exercise world, like I think that people do themselves a huge disservice if they mess with their sleep. And I feel like right now, if you're quarantined at home and no one's getting to the office early because we're not going to the office. Well, this is a really great opportunity, I think, to focus on sleep and rest,
sleep and self-health in general. It's to focus on your sleep, clean up some eating and that kind of stuff, and rest. We're a society of go, 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 go. No one knows how to rest, and it's a perfect time to hit that reset button, chill out, and focus on yourself and family, and reevaluate the simple things.
Well, so let me ask you a little bit about that then. So if we're focusing on sleep, and I had no intention of going here when we talked about stuff. So, but with sleep, so I want to talk a little bit about your opinions on screens before you go to bed. I'm going to ask you a little bit about, how you think they may affect you as you're about to go to bed. And then the second question, we can pause for a second if we need to, because I know the screens on its own is a big part to unpack. But the other part is with sleep in general. I know you and I are both we're both Oura Ring.
Yeah.
And so with that, what have you seen that you can do or take or whatever to help improve your sleep cycle specifically? Because you can be in bed for 8 hours, but your cycle can suck. So first question, what about screens and sleep cycles like before bed? How can you get better sleep just dealing with your phone?
Try to just cut off of the phone earlier, and simple supplementation of melatonin would be the basic and the easiest thing. Make sure your Wi-Fi router is nowhere near your beds. I have some patients that will turn off their Wi-Fi router at night, just trying to get away from the EMF. Even smart meters, the newer smart meters on the houses emit a pulse of EMF as well.
Interesting.
TV time, a lot of people will hit the TV and kind of zone out with that. That still has an effect of, you need a dark room. You need a dark room, eyes closed, to help your pineal gland secrete the melatonin. If you continually have a light in your eye, you're not going to secrete that melatonin efficiently.
Interesting. So it'll actually, right from the very beginning of you falling asleep, it'll actually take you longer to actually implement a good pattern. Is that what you're saying? If you have light in your eyes right before?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and then so the second question about sleep, are there things that you've noticed that you can implement, patterns, routines, supplements, anything that helps with improving your actual sleep cycle? And we're not talking about people who have a problem falling asleep. I think that's a kind of a separate issue, but things that actually help even your personal sleep waves to regulate themselves better.
A few different things, if you're what we're talking about, that sympathetic drive type person, go, have a hard time chilling your system out. The calcium, magnesium, potassium works phenomenal. Personally, I like valerian root. That's like an herbal Valium. Sometimes we got patients, they just got busy brains and they can't shut their brain off. That's a food grade lithium deficiency that we'll treat with patients. light exercise like yoga, meditation, infrared sauna, maybe a hot shower, simple stuff. It's just more or less having some routine, which is hard to find, but hey, if we're all quarantined for this, we can make some routine there.
So, and interesting when you talk about the hot shower too, because when I think about the hot shower, I think about it's a way to take your sympathetic nervous system. If you guys aren't familiar with that, that's the side that gets you to either fight a danger or to run away. So it provides you energy. Versus if your sympathetic nervous system is driven all the time, to get that parasympathetic side to kick on, taking a hot shower is one way to help with that, help with the nerves and all that other stuff, which also helps you rebalance your nervous system, which helps your digestive system, which helps your immune system. Yeah, that's crazy. All right. Well, I think we're kind of coming towards the end, but I did want to ask, because you're kind of a mad scientist with stuff, if there's any interesting or quirky things that you've been playing with right now in health. Is there any, I don't know, I always enjoy watching your stuff.
I jump around with different protocols. I'm still kind of, continuing with an immune protocol, look at just seasonal things in general, just even your traditional influenza in Michigan, most of the time even just goes to about mid-April. Last year I went to deep April, and when it gets warmer, we get the windows open, the doors open, and get outside and get some more natural sun. A lot of that stuff dissipates in general. But for now, it's just a basic daily protocol, my green drink, and some immune protocol stuff for now. Nothing too crazy.
So you think, just piggybacking on what you just said, you think that based on the normal trend with influenza, that most of this stuff is going to start dying down pretty dramatically mid-late?
Yeah, I can't predict the future, but I would think that through the regular flu in general, a lot of it dissipates when we could get outdoors, more and more sunlight, air out the house type of thing. Tends to be the way that a lot of it disappears. You got to look at statistics too. It's everyone's getting worked up with the way that this is spread it, and that the bottom line is still under 2%, even at most cases, just a 1% mortality rate with this. And looking back at 2009 when we had the whole swine flu thing, it was 14,000 deaths in the United States just from the swine flu, and the media just drilled this through everyone's head and scared the crap out of everyone because they compared it to the 1918 Spanish flu and all that, and it was nowhere near any of that, and it just everything kind of fizzled out. 1 year it's Zika, 1 year it's Ebola. It's all over the place.
So in your mind, what you're saying is that basically, we do need to pay attention to this and take precautions, but at the same time,
common sense, yeah.
Yeah, people need not to think that the world's coming into an end until we start seeing zombies walk down the street.
Exactly.
Okay, well, if I can just summarize this, and if you can kind of correct me on any areas that I'm wrong. So you're suggesting vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc as basic supplements for people to keep their immune system strong. You're also recommending that people work a little bit on their nervous system to help themselves relax, reduce stress. Work on any nutritional deficiencies, both through changing the things that you eat towards healthier, get some more exercise, look at potentially some things like calcium and magnesium to help your system, and then drink some more water, reduce some caffeine intake, and get better sleep. They hit everything?
Correct. Yep.
That was quite the list. All right. Well, so thanks, Dr. Senechal, for your time. And I do just want to say, I think Dr. Senechal has a ton of really great stuff on a regular basis. So I'm going to post some links to his Instagram, his website, his YouTube, all that stuff. And so you guys can just feel free to visit him and follow him. He's always posting new and interesting things. And thank you so much for your time.
No problem, man.
Thank you. See ya.